Hi, this is Kathy Baldwin, and you're about to listen to a very powerful interview. But before we begin today's episode, I wanted to give a very clear trigger warning. This conversation includes sensitive discussions around trauma, abuse, emotional eating, and unfortunately, human trafficking. Please take care of yourself as you listen. Step away if you need to. This conversation is critically important. It is critically important that the victims have a voice, that we do not turn a blind eye, because the truths that are discussed in this episode are too important. We must bring the darkness into the light, and that's not comfortable. I understand that. Today's guest is someone whose story stopped me in my tracks. You're going to hear and see the emotional impact that Orly Amor had on me. At one point in her life, she weighed 428 pounds. She carried that physical weight, but she also carried the invisible weight of shame and survival after abuse. Instead of letting it define her, she turned her pain into her purpose and into a message that is powerful, that now reaches globally across stages. Orly is a coach, a speaker, and a survivor who believes that your story is your intellectual property. You've already paid for it with your time, money, blood, sweat, and tears, and you deserve to be paid for it. That is one of the reasons that Orly helps people like you and me become paid speakers earning over $150,000 a year. But it's also the reason that I have created the Finally podcast automation system, because I believe that each and every one of us has a powerful story and a powerful message. I hope you enjoy this gut-wrenching, raw, emotional, and deeply inspiring interview on Unlearn the Crap. Let's get started.
Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome to another episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. My name is Kathy Baldwin. I am your host. And as always, this show, we talk about unlearning the disempowering crap, the conditioned responses and automatic programming. The crap that takes us out of our best life, our power. The fact that changes our thinking, changes our beliefs, makes decisions for us, puts us on autopilot, but also changes our physical body, our hormones, our stress levels, our gut microbiome. Everything is interconnected and interwoven. On this show, we discuss so many really important topics, but I don't think we've hit anything quite as profoundly, societally, and individually important as we're going to talk about today. Today, my guest is Orly Amor, and we are going to hit some pretty deep societal impact topics. This might be a trigger warning conversation, but it's too important for us not to have this conversation. Welcome, Orly.
Thank
As
you for
you heard,
having me.
As
Thank you.
you heard, I described what unlearn the crap is, the conditioned responses and automatic programming. The things that take us out of our best life. What crap did you need to unlearn so that you could level up?
Wow, that's a fully loaded question for sure. Um, I do have a story like everybody does. And if I may share, I'll share with you my story, but really, one day my girlfriend asked me to speak at a women's shelter. It was a long time ago. And I was in property management at the time. So I said to her, "What do you want me to speak to the women's shelter in the women's shelter property management?" She said, "No, silly. I want you to tell your story." And at the time, I was not ready to tell my story. And I know a lot of us feel a lot of guilt, shame, scrutinized, I'm sorry, um, judged, so the thing is that we feel those things that we're going to be judged, that there's like a big banner over our heads that is going to tell everybody who we are, what we did, or whatever. And it took a while, and I kind of relented, and I finally said yes. And the day I spoke at the women's shelter, something happened that I was not expecting. And there's a reason I'm taking this long to answer your question, because it's so important. I was on stage in front of 170 people or so, telling my story, giving them a talk. And afterwards, something happened that never happened to me in property management. I've been speaking in property management as well. And this time there was not one eye dry in the place. When I got off the stage, people came up to me and hugged me and tell me, thank you for sharing, thank you for coming, thank you for giving me hope. And my girlfriend at the time, when she told me to tell my story, I didn't even understand why. And she said, "Well, you're like a social butterfly. You live a lifestyle that most people dream about. Come and give these women hope." And so when all this happened, I got off the stage, and this woman came up to me and she showed me a piece of paper and she said, "This is how I was going to kill myself this morning." In fact, I don't remember driving from my house to the shelter, because you see here, it's not where I was going. But I heard you speak and I want to live. I just need you to show me how. And now I'm going to tell you my story, and then I'll tell you why I had to leave the crap behind. I was a beaten up child. I was molested 4 times before the age of 14. I was raped 3 times before the age of 22, twice gang raped, 9 months apart, left for dead. And I was married also to a very abusive husband, both mentally and physically. And as a result of that, I gained a morbid amount of weight. I was 428 pounds at my heaviest. And when somebody says, "Why did you leave the crap behind?" It's so important to understand that I didn't gain the weight because of just overeating. It's an emotional eating. We are emotional eaters. But also the weight I was carrying, the ball and chain of everything that happened to me. And I never wanted to talk about it. So it was eating me inside. And at one point, I had to decide that I'm not going to let myself be the victim, or I'm not going to let the perpetrators occupy space in my mind. Imagine that I was in property management and they didn't rent space in my mind. So I had to evict them. And that is the reason I had to let a lot of crap go, a lot of shame and guilt and all kinds of things of self deprecation, of a lot of things.
Wow. I am so glad that your girlfriend asked you to tell your story, because it has created a whole new life and level up for you.
Mm.
Orly, could you tell everybody, now that you unlearned your crap, how have you leveled up and are now serving the world?
So there's two ways. I'm a business coach for public speakers, and I help speakers get out there and get paid for their story, because I believe that I don't know, and I don't care who your audience where they are and how old they are, but whatever they have as a story, they paid for it. They paid for it with time, money, blood, sweat, tears, aggravations, ups and downs, all of it, experiences. and it's their intellectual property. And I believe they need to be paid for it. So I'm the only one in the world that
Yes.
guarantees they'll make 150K their first year in public speaking, or I work with them until they do. But what it allowed me to do from that day forward, from the shelter, is that I loved the public speaking side because I was impacting lives. In the act of sharing, there's contribution. You never know whose life you're going to change. So I went on a quest. I was able to get myself booked on stages all over the world. I've been to 31 countries and 18 states. I've had amazing experiences. I'm actually having goosebumps all over my body telling you this because that is what it afforded me to realize to let go of the victim bag. And then in 2020, during the after the pandemic or after things were kind of slowing down, one of my girlfriends came to New York to visit me. Now I live in Florida, but then I lived in New York. And in 2015, I had already heard about human trafficking. I had already gotten a lot of information. But in 2020, my girlfriend said everything that's going around is because nobody is doing anything about human trafficking. And she showed me a bunch of videos, and that's all the proof I needed. In February of 2021, I woke up in a nightmare. And what I was seeing is a gentleman walking away with two little girls. And he looked back, and his look was like, I have to say, like the devil. It looked very, malicious. And I said, "Where are you taking them?" But I woke up in that screaming.
Whoa.
And I didn't understand it then of what I was seeing, nor what was my purpose. Couple of months later, I talked to a guy who knows about what's going on in the world and a little bit more of the back stuff. And I said to him, I said, there's a lot of problems with human trafficking. I want to be involved. He said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to build healing centers that are going to take care of these saved or rescued victims so that we can give them back their God-given life God-given right to life, freedom, education, and autonomy. They were stolen their childhood. They never were able to play in kindergarten like we did. And, even with everything that happened to me, I still had a childhood in some way or form. I still have good memories, but these children have no good memories. They've been raped and molested times and times again all day long. So I cannot even be okay with where I am right now without giving back in a big way. So I started a nonprofit where we are building healing centers for rescued victims of human trafficking, sex, and labor slavery.
Orly, I can't thank you enough for coming on this show and talking about everything, because you could not have touched on more important topics through your story, through your healing, through how you help women with their voices and their healing. This is the most beautiful example I have ever heard of how you unlearn your crap and level up so that you can serve the world. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share. I say this often. This is not about us. This is bigger than us. We
Yeah.
think we have one purpose or we want to find our purpose. Our purpose is to serve. And that's what I say to people when they ask me about my core values. My core values are integrity, community, and service. There's a reason we are here on earth.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll move to another body, but
Yeah.
I want to leave a
I
footprint.
I just finished speaking on a global stage where almost every single thing you talked about, except for the human trafficking, were topics that I brought up as well. How, when we are out of alignment, I as well was attacked, raped, date raped, abused. Um, I have a whole series of traumas starting from age 12, where it was an attempted gang rape by 5 boys. And I started gaining weight. And my body has been a constant battle with stress because I was so busy trying to suppress everything, trying to pretend that it was in the past, just put it behind me. Because at 12 years old, I did not have the capacity to know how to process those feelings. And to be honest with you, even though we were dealing with the police and my parents, and my story immediately got attention, my healing did not, because nobody understood that that was a trauma that would forever alter who I am. And so when we see people who are struggling with weight and stress, especially women, and we go to this judgment place, this place where we are putting this horrible pressure to say that there is something fundamentally wrong with that person, that, and labeling with labels instead of going to the humanity of what is your body trying to protect you from, what weight is your heart and your soul carrying, that your body is the physical manifestation of what is happening inside.
Absolutely. And when you say these things and the judgment part, when people used to rebuke Jesus because he was touching people with demon possessed and all that stuff, and all of the people who are in diseases and lepers and all that. And the real story is, if we could actually see people not as what they have or their disease, but that they have a name and they have a story. They were born
Yeah,
to parents and they have something, they went through something. We need
yeah,
to have empathy and compassion. That's what's missing in society today.
yeah. And
Being back within 2 years plus.
yeah,
And that was the shift. I decided that that's not going to happen to me, because I almost died on that table. When I did it, it was when 1 out of 3 died on a table. So, and I was not any different. My surgery was horrendous because my fat was not flab, it was hard. You know what I mean? It was tough fat, and it was not easy for them. Instead of 2 hours, my surgery took 4 hours. Anyway, so when I realized that this can come back, I said, that's not going to happen to me, and I'm not going through this again. And I'm not going through the shame and the pain that I went through for all these years. We're talking about years. Since I'm 16 years old, I gained weight.
yeah,
And I decided that I'm just going to cut a few things. The first thing I did is cut soda altogether, like cold turkey, and then cut bread, cold turkey, and slowly but sure. Oh, and stop eating after 7 p.m. That was my biggest fault, is to eat at 11 o'clock at night, because I worked very long days and didn't have time to cook and to do and blah, blah, blah. So I just
yeah,
decided to do certain things. So what happened is that I decided to have micro habits. There's a book about that. It's called micro habits. You can make little habits little by little, and you will see the change in your body. And it was just amazing. And I lost the other all the way to 230 pounds by myself. So the first
wow,
65 was because of the surgery, but the other 170 for another year and a half was because I cut stuff and I didn't diet. You know what I mean? What is the first three letters of diet is die. So you
yeah,
feel like it's death, like it's, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. So
yeah,
don't do that to yourself. It's too much. At the
yeah.
same
And what happens is that when we try to control our body, and our body is just trying to keep us alive, because it believes whatever it believes that it's working. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, you're still alive. So obviously, what we're doing is working. And when we put ourselves through these massive, stressful diets, as you call it, our body thinks we are in massive danger. and it's on high alert. And the very first opportunity that it feels we are safe again, it is going to pack on more safety and add extra just in case this danger ever happens again. And so those micro learnings tells our body we're safe. We're safe. It's okay. Things are just changing. We're evolving. But we're not hitting those stress hormones and putting us into that fight or flight that happens with our central nervous system. I love the way you did that. How did that change your life?
Well, I felt good about myself. So I was able to go out more and do more and have fun more. And it's it's kind of funny because when I lost the weight, I went to a store. Oh no, first I called my girlfriend who did the same surgery. And she said to me, she's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like I lost anything. I don't feel like I lost any weight. And she said, when was the last time you went and bought yourself something to wear? And I said, oh my God, I'm not doing that until I lose everything. I want to look good, you know? She said, nope, you're going to go today to even a Lane Bryant. You're going to go and get some pants, anything. Just get something to wear that's one size or two of what you've lost. And at the time, I thought because I lost so much weight, I was 28 wide. I feel like, okay, maybe I'm 18 now. I don't know. And so I go to, and oh, and when I tell you integrity is my like biggest core value, she knew that. And so she made me promise that I will go today. And so if I tell you I promise, come hell or high water, it's going to happen, right? That so she made me promise. So I had to go and I did. And I went in the store and I looked for a pants and I thought, okay, I'll take the 18, right? And I go into the dressing room and the pants falls right off of me. It wouldn't even stay. And I'm like, there is no way I'm a size 16. Hold on a second, right? And so the lady brings me the size 16. Not only did it fit, I was able to put my whole arm inside the pants too. And I was jumping in the store. You can't make this shit up. I was jumping in the store, hugging everybody I could see. I even hugged the clerk, and there was a lady standing there, and she goes, "What are you so happy about?" And I took out my picture from before because I always carried it with me, and I showed it to her, and she took out her picture, and all of us broke down in tears. What I want to say from all that is giving you something to smile about, but at the same time, our mind has the same image from before. The
Yes.
image does not change. And when you don't realize that, you're living in denial when you're fat. Sorry to
Yep.
say it, but that's the way I see it.
Yep.
When your body sees you fat, it even amplifies that, and then you feel more depressed, you eat more, you do more, and then you go into this spiral, downward spiral. But when you go and realize that your mind was lying to you, what
Yep.
you saw in the mirror is not the real picture, what
Yep.
people see in you is not the real picture, then that shift not needs to happen. It's so amazing when it does. That's what
Yes.
happens.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Our brain creates a story. And until we make a conscious decision to look at that story and challenge that story and actually make a conscious decision that that story is not true, whether it's through physical expression, the way you did with trying on the pants, and then you could not deny the truth, because once we see the truth, we can't unsee it. We can't go back to lying to ourselves. You can't just say, "Oh no, I'm still a size 28," when you can't even keep a size 18 stuck on your body, right? Like you just can't fight that truth. And so it requires us to challenge our thoughts and our beliefs. And we
Yeah.
can do that with anything. And we
Mm.
can change our thoughts and our beliefs before the external reality shifts. We can create a new reality by making a new decision. No, I am healthy. I am strong. I am worthy. I deserve to live my best life. I matter. What my story is important. What my gifts are important. And when we start to focus on these things, now we put ourselves into an alignment where our body now says, oh, we're living a higher life, we're leveling up. Okay, we're not in danger, we're not in stress. Now, okay, now we need to make sure that she has the resources, that she has the energy level. Okay, now we need to shed that which is not serving us, whether it's physical weight or emotional distress or belief systems, whatever it is. It starts with us challenging. Oh, your story could not exemplify everything that this show and what I do talks about. Okay, so you lost the weight. You made small decisions. You started to respect and honor yourself. You didn't put yourself into stress. How did you heal
No.
your trauma?
So I have read so many books on self-help. I had followed Tony Robbins around the world. I've spent a lot of money on a lot of these people. And one day I was at a Tony Robbins event in San Diego, California. And I met many people, amazing people. You always meet amazing, like minded people, and you hear stories upon stories.
Yeah.
10 days later, I flew to Paris, France to a Tony Robbins event. Yeah, that's what I
Wow.
did. For a long time, I did that. Paid a lot of money. And I walk into the auditorium in Paris and I see the same people that I saw in San Diego. And there was a light bulb that went up and said, didn't you get the memo? Don't you think you've done enough? Don't you think you've read enough and done enough and healed enough from all that you read and all that you know? I went
Yeah.
back home, and my mentor at the time said, let's go for lunch. And he's an older gentleman. And he said to me, so how are you doing? And I said, you know what? I I am tired of going to all these seminars and conferences and meeting all these people. And I feel like I'm above that. Like now I'm healed. I feel good. But I think something is missing in those events. He's like, really? What do you think it is? I said, something with the brain. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to teach that to people. And condescendingly, he said, and judgmentally, he said, okay, dear, go ahead. When you find it, call me.
Wow.
Oh, you do not put a challenge on my lap. I tell you that. So I called him 6 months later. I said, Sir Martin, I have written the program that's going to change people's lives immediately. And he said, okay, be at my house tomorrow mornings, 8 a.m. I'm like, all right. So I printed the whole thing to bring it to him because he's older and it's not something that you send him in an email. He's not going to read it. So I brought it to him and I put it on his desk at 8 a.m. and he started reading it. And I'm like, oh no, is he really going to read the whole thing? It was like a pile of paper. And he's sitting there doing, uh-huh, And then after 2 hours, he closes everything and he says, okay, I have a few questions for you. And now he's bombarded me with questions upon questions. What if this? What if that? And after a while, he says to me, do you know what time it is? And I said, no, what kind of a question is that? I look outside. I said, it's pretty dark outside. I don't know what time it is. It must be evening. He goes, Orly, it's 2 o'clock morning next day. And I said, what? He said, all day long, all I wanted to do, and Kathy, when you're on adrenaline, you don't feel hunger, pain, pee, nothing. You don't feel anything. And I was
Yep.
on very high adrenaline because I was so passionate about everything he was asking me. And after all of that, that's what he's asking me. So he said, you must be tired, and so am I. But we've been here for a long time. And if you came here for my blessing on this program that you want to teach people, you have my blessing. It's a great program. And I went home, and I won't give you all the details, but I went home and I put that on a shelf. I didn't even do anything with it, just like we all do. And
Oh,
a few months later, one of my friends said, why don't you come to New York? Teach it here. Teach your mindset mastery program here. Because in Florida, everybody knows you in property management. Nobody's going to understand the shift from property management to mindset mastery. And
yeah.
I started teaching it to CEOs and CFOs of Fortune 500 and Fortune 100. They were amazing. They were amazed and amazing on their transformation. And one of them, the first one that ever hired me, actually walked me down the aisle with my new husband at the time. I am now married 12 years, but I found the love of my life. I Everything has shifted. But how did
Wow.
I feel me? It was through also creating something for others. There is
Yes.
something missing in all these adrenaline provoking events. And that's why you
Yes.
go home, and after 2 weeks, you're back to your old habits, your old ways, and you don't see any transformation and you miss it. So you go again.
Yep.
That cycle is vicious and you got to stop it at some point. That's exactly what happened to me. So not only did I heal
Yeah.
myself, I've healed a lot of people since.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I love that because so many of us, me included, I spent multiple six figures over my 40 years of retreats and seminars and coaches and mentors, always looking for the answer outside of myself and thinking I just need to know more. Or there's something missing. Why isn't it clicked? And it wasn't until my body broke down and said, okay, girl, enough is enough. Like, if you won't stop and take care of yourself, I'm going to force you. And that's
Mm,
what my body did, between osteoarthritis and not being able to physically walk because my knees, having a mental and emotional breakdown, losing my job, and all of these things happened so that I was forced to look at myself and realize that all of these years of putting my trust and faith in somebody and something else, all it did was keep me in that loop of looking externally. And as soon as I started to consciously make decisions that I was going to invest in myself, by myself, for myself, that's when everything changed. Because those traumas that we carry are a way of avoiding making a decision that says, no, I'm worth this. Because as soon as we cut the ties to that trauma and say, that was not me, and I won't carry this, and I have a purpose and a mission into the future, and I am moving forward, that baggage falls away.
yes. And actually, your body releases it on its own. It
Yeah,
basically now feels calm. The stress is not calm. Stress is
yeah,
and you can feel it in your body. If you want to know if you're stressed, sit down for a while and see if any part of your body is tense.
yep,
People don't realize how tense they are. They sit like this, or they clench their fists, or they clench their toes when they don't want anybody to see, or they stiffen their muscles. And that is stress, but that's what you need to do meditation for. That's why you need to write journaling for. That's why you need to be grateful for. All of
yeah,
this is important. There's a reason why everybody's telling us to do a gratitude journal or to journal, period, all our thoughts and all the things, because it heals our body. And it's kind of, when you read it back to yourself, you're like, oh my God, why are you thinking this stuff?
Do you know that I actually saw someone who said when they're journaling that you don't even need to write the words? It is that you are taking the thoughts and you are transferring them through to the physical act of doing it. So you can just do scribbles so that
Yep.
nobody ever needs to see or hear or know your words. But your brain doesn't know that it's not a language that you can read. It is that processing through the lymphatic system and your emotional system that is
Yep.
releasing it from your body.
Yes, and it gets you into a trance. If you do anything, you can do anything to journal, but not, like you said, draw, paint, do whatever, and your body will not know. You can just have better self-talk, though, because
Yeah.
sometimes when people journal, they're mean to themselves. So what I say is, think about if you had to go through whatever you go through, all of it, whatever it is, and now put yourself outside of that person, and now be the friend of the person you think you are.
Yeah.
How would you talk to that person? And of course, you're going to say, well, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry, blah, blah, blah. There's more to it. You're beautiful. You matter. Everything you said earlier. And say that to yourself. You don't hear it enough. You're always bashing yourself and
Yeah.
criticizing yourself and worrying about what everybody else is thinking. Who cares? Nobody's
Yeah.
thinking about you. That's the big fallacy in all of this. No one
Yeah.
is spending time thinking about you.
Yeah. We will put ourselves into a pretzel, twisting ourselves around, trying to please everybody. But you're right. We think that because our ego thinks that we are so important, that the world is revolving around us and everything we say and do is so important to everybody else. But really, the only person we really matter to is ourselves. Do
Yeah.
you know, when I became an energy healer to help really, when I realized that our emotions are chemical as well as hormonal, they're not just thoughts and feelings, that don't matter. When I realized that there was a physical component to our feelings and our emotions and our traumas, I became an energy healer to release it. And one of the things that I found was that I had over 400 that I found trapped emotions in my uterus. Well, my uterus had, well, I told you I'd been sexually attacked and
Yes.
abused and,
Right.
all of these things. So it made sense that that's where it was found in my body.
Wow.
But I created cysts and fibroids, and I had to have a total hysterectomy. And that stuff was still there. And when I realized, when I go through the root cause, because I became an emotion code and a body code healer, I realized that the main emotion was self abuse. And when I went to the root cause of that self abuse, that was not me beating myself up. That was me not keeping my own promises to myself. It was me putting everyone ahead of myself. It was self betrayal by not trusting myself. And the hardest thing that I had to do was look myself in the eye and apologize to myself for letting myself down.
Mm, yeah. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, we don't realize that we need to apologize to the little girl or the little boy in us, and to say, hey, don't worry, we're safe now. Everything's going to be
Yeah.
okay. Because it
I
keeps
got you now.
fighting to hear, it keeps fighting for our attention. And if we
Yeah.
don't pay attention, it fights back. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's subconscious, but it's still there.
Yeah. I purposely, right over there is a picture of me as 1 year old. And I
Oh.
keep that picture there to remind myself that I am responsible for her,
Mm.
that I will protect her, I
Yeah.
will take care of her, I will honor her.
Yes. That's good.
Orly, I want to transition to your your mission right now. Could
Mm.
you tell us how big the human trafficking issue is and
Well,
what we need to know to protect our loved ones and our communities?
that's a good point. So how big is it? Well, the first thing I would like to say is it's $150 billion industry. Yes, it's an industry. It's a business. On top of
Oh,
the fact that now it's bigger. I don't know what the numbers are today because they're much bigger, and I'll tell you why, because the cartels are getting in on it. So why traffic drugs when you can traffic humans? It's easier, faster, and easier to make money with. That's the sad truth. The second sad truth is that stop telling yourself that this is happening somewhere else. It's right here in your own neighborhood. You just don't know it. It is happening right next door in a family that can be just as jovial and looks perfect. And it's unfortunate. I'll tell you a really quick story. Not where or when, but I will tell you a story that is a true story. It's a 6-year-old girl that her parents were living in a cul-de-sac, and her uncle lived in that cul-de-sac. And every night he would come and pick her up from her bed and sell her all night long to gentlemen who would come all night long, one after the other. And sometimes people in the neighborhood would see her at 9:30 at night in the swings in the park that was right there. Nobody asked questions.
oh my
Well,
God.
she found out that the reason her parents had money and that she was having the best birthday parties and the best gifts and all that, although it never made her happy. She talks about it later and she talks about it on video. So I can tell you that I've seen it. And you would never believe her mother was a part of the school board. Her father was chief of fire department of that town. Of course, they were arrested and everything, but my point to you is it's happening in your own backyard. You would never know it. But the teachers were starting to ask questions. Why is she always, you know, in the clouds when she's in class? She's always tired, falling asleep. Well, you know what? The girl has been working all night long and
Oh
badly
my,
abused all night long. You can imagine that this is one little story. I can tell you so many that will make your hair stand straight up. So I'm not here to only bring about the knowledge or the information that this exists, because there's many, many, many organizations. Certain organizations are all about um, sharing the information and bringing awareness to the public. There's organizations that go and rescue these kids from different localities, modalities of restraint and against their own will. And some of them have been brought in containers from other countries and are sold here on our grounds. So when they rescue them, they don't even have a name. They don't have a language. They don't have a lot of things. And their childhood has been stolen from them. My organization, You Are My Light, and by the way, Orly means you are my light in Hebrew, but You Are My Light is building healing centers to rescue, not only to where to bring the rescued victims, but to first heal them physically from any
yeah.
drugs or anything. So first of all, a detox. And it takes between 3 and 2 weeks to detox them, unless they're in a very bad assessment where they need to have a different type of treatment. And still the center will provide that. And also we will provide them the mental health they need. Also, the group healing, the one-on-one healing, this is going to take a while, and we want to give them their childhood back. So there's going to be in the center, a painting room, a music room, a sports thing where they can actually play and have, and a playground, all of it, all in a vicinity that is completely protected, very high security. So the location will never be disclosed to the public, but people who will donate the big money, we might share with them where, because they would understand that the cause has to be protected from every element, political, affluential, and social. We really need big companies to understand this is not a funny business. This is real, and it's horrible, horrific actually. And
Can, can I just, can I just, I need you to clarify this
sure.
because we're hearing about the Me Too. We're hearing about the Jeffrey Epsteins and the island. And, we think it's all outside of us. The most shocking thing that you have just said to me is that it's happening next door, under our noses.
Yes. Yes. And the Epsteins of the world is one of the things that they did to these children. I'm not going to go into certain things that you might have heard that some people are calling a conspiracy theory and all that. Believe what you want to believe. There's a lot of crap and a lot of evil in this world, and it goes deep, deep, deep. And that's why they call it the deep state. But those who don't want to believe, they'll stay ignorant for the rest of their lives. And you know what? I tell that to my husband. You can't fix stupid and you can't fix moron. Not that I want to insult anybody, but if you can look at something and not see it, there's a problem. So I would suggest to those who do care and want to care to take lessons into how to spot these things, not just call
Yes.
on anyone. Just spotting is a very skilled thing. You don't just say, oh, you know what, I see a black woman with a white child, she must be trafficking the child, like, or she must be his nanny. This stereotyping bullshit has to stop, because that's where it starts to create more instead of less. We need to love everyone, but understanding that there's evil. And if a
Yes.
child comes to you and says, Mommy, Uncle blah, blah, blah did this to me, investigate. Take the child's word. When I got molested by my grandfather for 4 years, and I couldn't muster up the the strength to tell my mother it was her father that was molesting me. And every time he came over, and she left him with us every single day, me and my brother. And every day, this happened for every day during a whole summer, 4 years in a row. We were traumatized already, but nobody would listen. And even when I did muster up the courage to tell my mom, she said, I don't want you to tell your father, don't tell anyone. She suppressed the whole thing. So the person who was supposed to be protecting me was
Oh,
actually inflicting more pain. And I love
yes.
my mom. I'm very good friends with her now. Everything is good. She didn't know what she didn't know, and she reacted to it the way she know how. And I'm just gonna say that, and she knew that if my father would have known, he would have killed him, like literally, and probably gone to jail for it. So I'm just saying that's what she probably saved, but he never knew. And when I said that to her, see the reaction? No, don't tell anyone. This doesn't happen in our family. And even my aunt, who her sister said maybe she was imagining that. Really, a 10-year-old would imagine this? Can you even think straight? Listen to the children. And maybe sometimes their imagination can carry them in the dramatization of the story, but there's something behind it, and there's no smoke without a fire. You need to check into the fire so you can put it out earlier.
Yes. Yes.
And no, the children don't need therapy and psychologists and that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, all due respect to psychologists and therapists, they come into our life in a certain time. But our first course of action should be life, love, and safety for the
Yes.
children.
Yes.
They need to feel safe.
Safety. Safety.
Safety, because
Safety.
what are you going to do? Give them to another stranger to fix their mental problem? Can you even hear what I'm saying? Because it doesn't make sense. And common sense is
No.
not so common. So we do need to teach it. They should have common sense classes in schools and everywhere, literally. I feel like starting a program like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I need to ask one question
Sure,
before
anything.
we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Is human trafficking only sexual?
Oh no, there's labor trafficking. And yeah, there we have slaves in America, people, right? And I'll give you another story. There was a couple that owned a braided, they do braids, manicure, pedicure, that kind of thing. It was the mother, the father, and the son, and they brought girls from another country, promising the parents that they will bring them to America, give them good education, and give them a good life, would give them a good home, food, all of that, because they go to third world countries to do that. But here it's girls that are between the age of 10 and 14, just so you know the age bracket. If you have kids, start talking to them. But this girl once was able to say to a client in the salon, "Help me." She said, she didn't say the words, she motioned the words, right? And the lady saw that something was wrong. Well, guess what? This couple and their son were keeping these girls in their basement, not feeding them, not taking care of them at all, making them work from 18 hours days, doing all the things at these beauty salon. No sexuality of any kind was going on that anyone knows of, but they kept them in the basement. And let me tell you, the house, gorgeous house, white picket fence. This was on the news, and
Wow.
people brushed it off. It was on the news, reported back then. It was a long time ago. But you would walk around that neighborhood, you would never think that that's going on in that house, ever. And when they ask
Wow.
the neighbors, you know what the neighbors always say? Well, we didn't see anything. They're such polite people and so nice, and they're very community like, and they come to church. And yeah,
Yeah. Orly, we unfortunately are out of time.
I,
There's so much more that I want to talk about, but your story of perseverance and rising up and leveling up to the best version of yourself, and the hope that you give, and the second chances that you give for other uh, people. I don't want to use the word victims. Um, Other people who are by no choice of their own have been taken out of their best life. And I believe so strongly that this is the time that we must level up and bring our love and our compassion and our innovation. And that starts with us taking care of ourselves and leveling up so that we can do the beautiful deeds that you're doing. I believe that when we are all living our best life, we cannot have war and hatred and famine and slavery and abuse. Those things cannot exist when we are living our very best life. Orly, how do you want to leave this message with everyone? What do you want them to know?
get involved. Get involved. Here's my quote: if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem.
Yeah.
That's an Orly Amor quote. And I've been saying that for a long time. If you're not a part of
Yeah.
the solution, whatever it is for you, because everybody has charities and movements that they want to give to, get
Yeah.
involved in whatever strikes a chord with you and your heart and your belief and your God-given right to the freedom you have. Share
Yeah.
it, be involved, get involved. You can get involved in many ways. It doesn't always have to be monetarily, although money does help. It's not the only thing that helps. There's resources, there's all kinds of things. So we
Yeah.
invite you to be a part of our advisory council, show up at our events, or and connect us. It's You Are My Light, YOUAREMYLIGHT.org. I invite you to
Beautiful.
join us anytime. You can contact me directly from there.
I was just about to ask how they could reach you.
Thank you.
I am beyond honored that you came and spent this time with us. I
Thank
I cannot thank you enough, and I have no more words.
I appreciate you,
Get
Kathy. Thank you. Thank you for what you do, giving us a voice, giving us the chance to share it with the masses. It's important.
with that, I wish everybody their best life. Unlearn the crap that's in your way and level up because your soul is calling and the world needs you. Until next
Amen.
time, thank you. Thank you for listening to the Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast. If this conversation spoke to you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. That simple act helps amplify this important work of unlearning the crap that holds us back. This show is built on the foundation of my 3 books: Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling, a roadmap to release what no longer serves you. How I Unlearned My Crap, which is my raw story of breaking free and the patterns that I needed to unlearn. And the third book, The Unlearned Life, an AI powered ritual system for truth transformation and personal empower. If you're a podcaster or you want to be, this is for you because 85% of podcasts fail. Not because of the message isn't powerful enough, but because the back end can be overwhelming. I created the Finally Podcast automation system so your voice doesn't become a statistic. Your message is too important to be silenced by burnout, tech chaos, or even wasted time. My mission is to support not only my guests and you, the audience, but also every podcaster who's ready to level up. So until next time, keep unlearning, keep leveling up,